I want to give a big shout out to Sandfall Interactive for providing me with the code for review. Just when you thought the year of 2025 couldn't get any stronger when it comes to video game releases, we get the absolute banger that is Clair Obscur Expedition 33, submitting itself as one of the highest rated games of the year, alongside the likes of Blueprints and Split Fiction. But this is also based on Metacritic user reviews, where it's also currently the highest rated game of all time. Yes, you heard that right, of all time. Did I also mention that in this day and age of charging $70, sometimes $80 for games, Expedition 33 is only going to run you about $50, and it's easily worth that asking price if you're paying it. There's no microtransactions, and the only optional thing that you can buy is the Deluxe Edition upgrade, which comes with some additional outfits or the soundtrack. The game is also available day one on PC and console Game Pass. I actually got the chance to go hands-on with this game at the start of March, and just from the little slice of that opening that I played, I could tell that this right here was going to be one special game. And after putting over 40 hours into it, I'm happy to say that this right here is a certified banger that you need to play. And take it from someone who's never played a lick of a turn-based combat game. I'm serious, I've never played Final Fantasy, I've never played Persona. I played Pokemon, if you count that as like a turn, I mean, it's turn-based, but I'm talking like an RPG. And something about it pulled me in and it kept me engaged that entire time. Something about the art style, it hits a lot of the same ways that Death Stranding did for me. And then you have the absolute stacked cast of Ben Starr, Andy Serkis, Jennifer English, and then you have Charlie Cox. I mean, how the hell did they get a cast like this for this game? And as you play through each encounter, each scenario, as you tool around with all your party's different abilities and gear, you get the sense that this was a game made by a team of veterans, that they'd made something like this before. And when I found out this was Sandfall Interactive's first video game ever as a studio, I was blown away. Now, I know you've heard turn-based and you probably sighed, maybe even clicked off the video, but please, give it a shot, because it is such an amazing experience and one that I'm happy to have played. So if you'd like to hear more, let's sit back and talk about Clair Obscur Expedition 33.
Take everything.
As I do with all my reviews, I like to talk a little bit about the performance of the game. I went ahead and I played Clair Obscur Expedition 33 on PC with an RTX 4080 and an i7-13700K with all the settings at their max values and DLSS set to quality. And for majority of my time, I was getting a solid 80 to 100 FPS in most areas, and with everything that's going on screen at any given moment, I consider this to be a pretty solid in my eyes. You've got tons of particle effects, you've got massive bosses, and then a lot of sick animations. It all flows just so well together. From a bugs and crashing perspective, I didn't have any issues on the performance side. And funny enough, the game actually remembered a lot of my settings from the demo build I played a couple months ago, so I thought that was pretty cool. I guess the only issues that I would occasionally have is one where I would be running in the overworld and then I would go to a playable space. Sometimes the camera, I feel like, would get confused and it wouldn't go the correct way that you were pushing it. And then sometimes in the side content, the lip sync was off, but those are really minor issues in the grand scheme of things. I also want to note this is an Unreal Engine 5 game, so the performance is going to vary for some, so if you are planning on picking up the game, consider checking out a video with comparable specs so you can get an idea of what you'd be looking at. Now, let's talk about the graphics and the art design a little bit, because I want to know what they're putting in the water over in France. Just look at this game, man. I can't. The only other game that made me feel this way is Death Stranding, and that's a game that I still hold pretty high this day, and not just because of the story and how much I enjoyed it, but just how unabashingly weird it all could be at times. And for some, it's going to work. For others, it's not. The art design here in Clair Obscur is one that screams brutal. It's dark, but there's also a beauty, a calmness to it. Kind of like a painting when you just can sit there and you start to see things you might have not noticed that first time. A lot of the different areas that you can walk through, I just love taking it in. It's something that I found myself doing a lot. It's a crime that this game didn't launch with the photo mode, because I would have easily taken over 100 pictures by now. The level of flexing that this team was doing here, it's insane. And to think that nearly 30 people made this game is crazy. While there is some context to that number, yes, the 30 that I'm referring to are the people who work at Sandfall Interactive, with a lot of the personnel there having their names credited multiple times for different roles within the game, but then you have portions of the game that were outsourced to other studios, like some of the animations and the music work. That could be worrisome with chunks of your game being outsourced to different studios, but with that main team being the size that they were, if any changes or fixes need to be implemented, they could just do so without much oversight. And this game also has sparked a pretty big topic around productivity and how fast a team of this size could move versus a AAA studio, which is going to have tons more cooks and hands in the kitchen. And Sandfall knew early on that they wanted to lock it down, and that's why the main art director was the third person that was hired at this studio. They knew what they wanted to build, and you could clearly see that with the final product. Cutscenes, the environments, they all just look so damn good. And if you're interested in seeing more about the development of the game, Xbox did a developer direct in January that highlighted the studio and talked more about the game, so I'll go ahead and I'll link that down below. And if you do enjoy the video, consider dropping in a like, I'd greatly appreciate it. The biggest sell for me when it came to this game was the story. Expedition 33 is one that just from the hook alone was able to grab me, and I suspect it is able to grab a lot of other people as well. Every year, a mysterious figure called the Paintress will paint a number on a monolith, and everyone of that age will turn to dust at the end of the year, and that cycle has been repeating itself for some 67 years now. The hook alone is great, but just that prologue alone is able to do something that's akin to The Last of Us Part 1, and they hit you with a gut punch right out of the gate, and the hits don't stop coming there. Expedition 33's story delves into a lot of darker subjects in life. What the people here in Lumiere have to go through each year and what that's like. What's the point in having kids if you won't ever be able to see them grow old or have them have their own family of themselves? Each generation has only ever known the Paintress and the Gourmage, which is the event that turns everyone into dust.
You know how I feel? I wish things had been, I often think another path, another future.
Still can't finish your sentences, can you?
Yep, that hasn't changed.
It's a lot to grasp and a lot to deal with, and how they're actually able to convey that amongst this cast of characters, I thought is exceptional. The cast of characters that you're going to be rolling with is also something that's going to evolve and change over time as you play. You're going to be able to swap out different members of your party. You're only going to be able to use 3 party members at any given time, but you're going to have 5 to 6 members to choose from for that main team. Gustav is going to be the main character you play as. He's a young inventor from Lumiere and Mael's legal guardian, and he's tasked with setting out on a journey to stop the Paintress along with his fellow expeditioners, Lune, CL, and Mael, joining though even her Gourmage is still a few years away. It's not long till after they arrive on the fractured continent that the group is split up, and obviously I'm omitting a lot of things here because I do think this story is best experienced on your own without any spoilers. I'm just giving you the setup, so in terms of story spoilers, that's really all you're getting from me. But seriously, hats off to every voice actor in the game, and holy shit, they're phenomenal. I can't praise them enough. I also do want to touch on the music a little bit here because I think this is a shoe-in to win Best Soundtrack at the Game Awards and many other awards. It's some of the best music I've ever heard in a video game, like full stop. I'm not joking. And then you've just got some of the best combat music I've heard, where I will just sit there and I will listen to that combat music and I won't even do anything.
Full deck.
There's already a few tracks I've got added to my Apple playlist music, but I mention the music here because I think it is also instrumental to a lot of the more emotional moments in the story and the more impactful pieces in the narrative moments. So just pay attention to it. There's a lot of great music. The soundtrack is like 8 hours long and over like 150 tracks, so it's awesome. Go listen to it. Each character that you meet here has been training for and leading up to this very moment of taking on the Paintress to stop her for the people and the ones who come after. How do you grapple with the fact that eventually one day you'll just be turned to dust and none of it'll matter? You aren't going to be able to grow old. You aren't going to be able to have a family. I know I mentioned it earlier, but it's just a hard thing to grapple with, and you see each of the characters go through a lot of these different emotions as they're playing. Even more so when you're in between missions, because you actually have the ability to come back to a base camp, which is where you're going to be able to upgrade weapons, skills, and your party members, but it's also going to be a place where you can unwind and relax with your other characters. And at first, these conversations are going to seem pretty basic and superficial, but as that narrative progresses, it's going to open up more conversations and more moments that sort of peel back more about our cast of characters. Why does Verso have that white speck in his hair? Why is Ciel afraid of water? And if I could suggest one thing, it is to make sure that you do these little dialogue options, because you do earn some optional outfits and skills, but more importantly, you get so much more character development and moments that you would have otherwise missed, and I think it helps a lot of the main story beats hit that much harder. The story is also something that does take you around 20 to 30 hours to complete, but that can also be greatly stretched out due to the game having a shitload of side content and explorable areas as well. While the game might look linear on the surface, some of the early levels can be, and once you progress further into Act 1 and the later acts, you actually see the optional areas in that overworld. This overworld map is a really cool thing. Think of like your dungeon crawlers, your Pokemon games where you'd have that top-down view that you could roam around out in the open world. The overall size of the map was also something that kept growing and growing as you progressed, with new abilities unlocking new areas that you thought were previously just set dressing in the background. You'll be able to swim across the water, you'll be able to fly in the air. It's honestly just a ton of fun to explore that overworld map. Out in this overworld map, you're going to be able to find different gear, different vendors to buy items like music tracks and customization items, but you're also going to be able to find a lot of optional combat encounters, challenging bosses, or a minigame or two. I hate that damn beach volleyball game so much. There's honestly such a good amount of stuff to do in this overworld, you might forget that you're supposed to be doing the main mission sometimes. And when you're out in the overworld, make sure you look for these little portal entrances, because these can take you to a 2.5D map where you can find a collectible or two, or you can come across an entire side area. And I'm not joking that when you come to some of these areas, you get the feeling that you're playing something out of Elden Ring. The way you're able to randomly stumble upon a whole ass area with its own bosses, and then you just keep finding more and more of it as you keep progressing in the game. Seriously, this game at nearly every turn was blowing me away, all the way until those credits rolled. And like I said, I won't spoil or talk about that ending, but it was so damn captivating, and I'm not joking, it almost brought a tear to my eye. How they managed to do this, how they managed to craft a narrative and a cast of characters so well, it moved me. As just, it's not something that I can say that many video games are able to do this day. And I'm going to keep praising Sandfall because they deserve every bit of it. Like I'd mentioned earlier, I had never played a turn-based combat RPG, and playing this, I think, for my first one is going to make it hard to go and play any other titles like it. Act 1 of the game I thought was great because for someone that was completely new to this turn-based genre, the game does a great job at easing you into all of its different systems. You'll be roaming around the map in the third-person perspective like you're playing something out of the Jedi series or the God of War games, and this part of the gameplay I thought was really familiar, and it was something I was like, cool, I can look at that and I know what I'm doing. Then the turn-based combat is introduced. It's something special because it allows for real-time parrying and dodging, which I guess is a newer feature in the genre over the last couple of years. So instead of hoping for a dodge or a parry, it's actually up to you to time each of those enemy movements. And these little bastards, I tell you, they do some little Elden Ring hesitation windups with your attacks, and then or they pull attacks that you've never seen out of their ass, and it's kind of crazy. And I like a lot of the fights and the bosses. They're really fun, and if you build it up right, you can actually utilize and take advantage of those different parry and dodge windows as well. The more and more that you play the game, the more the combat I truly believe opens up. You'll start out with little damage numbers early on, but as you complete more combat encounters and missions, you'll unlock a lot of decent gear and upgrade materials, which can also be found exploring the overworld or the different map locations. Each character is going to have a skill tree. I wouldn't call it really like a dedicated skill tree, but more so think of it like skill attributes in a way. They give you a ton of options to choose from, and then you can combine those with your different pictos. Upgrading not just your gear, but also your pictos, which is going to be like your perk modifiers in this game, is also another key component. Each picto that you earn is going to drastically change how your character can play, from them starting in a particular fighting stance, or guaranteeing that you start with a particular amount of action points. I do also want to note that you are going to be capped at 9,999 damage until you get close to the end of that main story, so don't worry about getting that damage number up until you get towards that end game grind. There's also going to be Lumina points. That's another layer that they've added to this. So when you win 4 battles with any picto, that picto then becomes a Lumina that you can equip and essentially slot to your character. Lumina points are usually found out in the open world or by defeating enemies, and this is what's going to lead to a lot of the crazy damage numbers that you're going to see once you reach that sort of end game or third act. I think the highest that I've seen right now is like 4.4 billion. I'm not even close to that number. I think I've hit like 2.5 million, so I've still got a ways to go while I'm working towards that end game. Now, when you wrap up that main story, you're actually going to be able to go back and explore the overworld and the zones that you might have missed or skipped over in your run if you were a little underleveled. The game also gives you an option to roll over into a new game plus mode that can be triggered by going to any one of the expedition flags. But be warned, this does reset nearly everything in the game world: collectibles, side character progression, quest items, relationship levels, so be absolutely sure that you want to go into the new game plus mode before doing so. I would consider taking out some of the bigger world bosses that you see out in the maps. They're honestly kind of hard to miss, but they're going to be quite a challenge, and they're going to give you honestly some of the best loot that you can take into these new game plus modes, and that's what's going to lead, like I said, to those crazy damage numbers. I honestly could probably spend another 20 to 30 hours clearing out every zone, every area in the map, and I would still have more to do before I rolled into that new game plus mode. And I'm happy that there's this much to do in the game, and it's plenty that'll keep any normal person busy for a while. This game's actually insane. I don't know how really to put it in any other words than that right there. Sandfall Interactive had a vision and a goal in mind when they set out to make this title. They wanted to make a game that they themselves would want to play, not because some profit margins or because they wanted to make money. Yes, that's obviously the goal, but when you set out to just make a damn good video game, the money comes second of making such a good product. And having sold over 1 million copies in its first 3 days alone, I think it's safe to say that Expedition 33 is going to be doing just fine. And it's got to feel so amazing for all the people who spent so long and so hard working on this game over the last 4 to 5 years. And narratively, it's one that doesn't let up. From the moment you hit play, you're sucked into the world of Lumiere and its people. You care for them, you feel for them. The cast of characters did such an amazing job at bringing them to life. And like I've said numerous times, it's astonishing that this is Sandfall Interactive's first game as a studio. And in my eyes, it's put them on the map as a studio I'll be watching in the future. The narrative director also was asked about story DLC or an expansion, which they replied, there's a pretty good chance, and to that, please, I'm begging you. I need more of this game and I will wait however long it takes. Sandfall Interactive managed to create not just one of the best games of the year, but possibly of this generation. And if you don't agree with that, that's fine, but I'm looking at this from someone who has never touched a turn-based game, and holy shit, I am so glad I gave this a shot. This game is going to be some 13-year-old kid's Final Fantasy, and it's so cool to see this game have such a great reception and be received in the way that it was. And I honestly cannot wait till award season rolls around, because you can bet your ass this is going to be in the running for the Game of Year contender and a handful of other awards. Thank you once again for sticking around and watching the video. If you did enjoy it, consider dropping a like and subscribing so that you can catch all my review and previews coming in the next couple weeks. We've got Doom the Dark Ages coming up, and I also want to say thank you again to Sandfall Interactive for the review code. It was a pleasure playing your game. And as always, if you did make it this far, I just want to say thank you for taking the time out of your day. And this has been my review for Clair Obscur Expedition 33. Thank you for watching.
I know it seems absurd to offer oblivion as recompense, but
She'll never paint again.